Spotify. Most people living in the 21st century are quite familiar with this streaming conglomerate. What many people do not know is how Spotify has successfully created a new digital commodity through the reification of music as data. For musicians who are looking to break into the new digital music market, understanding the way Spotify reconceptualizes music as data is often vital to their success. But with this understanding comes the knowledge of how both Spotify and artists are now normalizing data manipulation for monetary gain. So today, we're taking a closer look at how the current business model, also known as the pro rata model, is being used by streaming sites today, and how it incentivizes both artists and companies alike to manipulate the current streaming infrastructure with the hopes of profiting in this new digital market space. So let's begin by looking at the agreement made between Spotify and the three major labels. In order for Spotify to operate, the company had to strike a deal with rights holders. That's record labels, distributors, and other collective agencies for the right to stream recorded music on the platform. This arrangement has resulted in almost 75% of the company's revenue going straight to rights holders, with music licensing expenses at the forefront of those costs. And while Spotify continues to generate more and more revenue each quarter, due to the portion of money automatically allocated to rights holders, Spotify remains inherently unprofitable. Because this arrangement looks to only benefit rights holders, Spotify seems to have created a workaround by manipulating the data that determines the payout via the pro rata royalty model. So, what is the pro rata model? Well, the term pro rata refers to the way in which streams equate to revenue, but it's not as straightforward as one might think.
Spotify doesn't pay artists per stream. Instead, the company takes all of the money it earns and puts it into one pie. Then it uses a complex formula to divvy that pie up between the artists, with those who get the most streams basically earning the most money.
So to clarify, if Spotify records 100 billion streams in, say, a year, and one particular recording receives 500 million streams in that same period, then the owners of the rights to that recording will receive 0.5% of the pot. What the pro rata model does is it creates a system where whoever holds the rights to the most streamed tracks stand to make the most money. And for the most part, that's major labels. Spotify's 2018 tax document shows how 87% of the content on the platform the year prior was from the top 4 music labels. What this tax document shows us is that for the longest time, Spotify was reliant on the millions of streams produced by those being backed by the major labels, so as to ensure that the pro rata system generated enough revenue to support licensing costs, regardless of the company's diminishing profit margins. But with the rise of playlist dominance on the platform, Spotify, together with the assistance of the major labels, has discovered a new way to game the pro rata system, weaponizing the company's curatorial powers over playlists. When logging onto Spotify, it becomes quickly apparent that the platform is pushing us to embrace the use of playlists. What we don't see is that the vast majority of playlists that are actually successful are those created, managed, and owned by Spotify. As of 2019, 35 of the most popular playlists on the platform were all curated by Spotify. The caveat is that Spotify has proprietary access over who gets added to these playlists. With playlists becoming a prevalent form of music consumption on the platform, Spotify's curatorial powers, meaning their capacity to advance one's interest and affect the interest of others through the organizing and programming of content, enables the company to successfully utilize playlists in order to manipulate user data and thus the pro rata model in their favor. The best example of this comes from Spotify's attempt to rebrand music as an experience in an effort to promote their mood-centric playlists. Recently, Spotify has begun working to produce what they consider to be a new musical commodity, the branded musical experience. And the proliferation of mood playlists on the platform has helped make this new commodity incredibly lucrative for Spotify. Let's take a look at a playlist entitled Thunderstorms and Rain, Sleep and Mindfulness. At first glance, it seems as if this playlist is simply emulating the sounds of thunderstorms and rain to help lull listeners to sleep. A closer look, however, reveals just how mood-based playlists can be used to manipulate the pro rata system in 2 different ways, the first being track length and utilization. This particular playlist is comprised of 160 tracks, all of which are less than 2 minutes in length. Understanding that the pro rata model only pays out royalties for plays lasting longer than 30 seconds, these 1 to 2 minute tracks do in fact adhere to the mandatory time duration required to generate a streaming royalty. If someone were to say, stream this playlist at night before bed, it's likely to assume they might set it on repeat and therefore generate a streaming royalty every 1 to 2 minutes for the entire 6 to 8 hour period that person remains asleep. And this can easily be seen as an attempt made by Spotify to manipulate the pro rata system. Secondly, the artists featured on these playlists are considered by many to be fake. Here, the term fake refers to artists featured on top-grossing Spotify playlists who actually act as musical fodder solely within Spotify's ecosystem, like Sleepy John. This artist, whose real name is David Taroti, is a sound designer employed by Epidemic Sound, a production house that specializes in sound effects for content creators. Sleepy John has little to no presence outside of Spotify's ecosystem, yet has over 30 million plays on the top tracks featured on his homepage. The consensus being is that these playlists, featuring hundreds of short tracks by arguably fake artists, reduce the overall royalties being paid out to top-grossing musicians. Tim Ingham, founder of Music Business Worldwide, actually reported on this for Rolling Stone magazine back in 2019, discussing how Spotify has been accused of employing over 50 fake artists on their mood playlists, how tracks are divided into as many minute-long portions as possible, and how Spotify and Sony are both profiting greatly from this move. As Spotify actively prohibits artists from being featured on mood-based playlists, artists fear that the company will continue to use fake content creators with contractually lower royalty rates to manipulate the data of the pro rata system so as to skew it further in their favor. According to Jeremy Morris, as these platforms become primary means of distribution, content producers, marketers, users, and platforms themselves all engage in practices to take advantage of platform affordances. And as Spotify seeks to influence the use of data in order to manipulate the pro rata model, so too have artists begun employing similar tactics to game the system. A prime example being the 2014 release of Wolfpack's Sleepify album.
In 2014, funk band Wolfpack capitalized on a Spotify loophole, collecting 20 grand in royalties by asking users to stream its completely silent album, Sleepify, on repeat while they slept. The band later used the money to fund an admission-free tour for their fans before Spotify pulled the album.
Morris describes this infrastructural optimization as the process of exploiting the ways platforms work at their most fundamental level to increase the visibility or value of certain content. It's said that the band asked fans to stream Sleepify continuously at night as they slept, hoping to coordinate efforts that could morph Spotify's less than a cent royalty rate into something lucrative. What this shows us is that artists are now optimizing their content in such a way that it works to exploit the same platform they have since become forcibly dependent upon. And while Wolfpack did manage to generate $20,000 in revenue that was then allocated to the benefit of their fans, once Spotify recognized what the band was doing, they quickly removed the album.
It was removed under the terms violation that the artist shan't make money, that term.
As companies and artists continue to experiment with new and duplicitous methods of exploiting the pro rata system, the ability to manipulate data may become a permanent fixture in the digital music market. What this means is that the ability to manipulate data in one's favor means that companies and artists no longer have to make music in order to receive streaming royalties from on-demand streaming sites like Spotify. I believe the musical community should do more to perform their due diligence in reinforcing the value and necessity of music in our culture if we are to ever arrive at a solution to the problems facing the digital music commodity. Thank you.
I need a dollar, dollar, dollar is what I need. Well, I need a dollar because streaming ain't working for me. Well, I need a dollar, Mr. Spotify, tell me please. Ain't nobody bought my CD since before 2003. Let me tell you a story, it's gonna sound a little bit dumb. 1 million streams will buy you a brand new pack of gum. The labels are making money, the streaming service